Most people don't even realize how much they are influenced in their daily lives. Decisions that seem spontaneous are often the result of subtle mental tricks used by those who understand the art of persuasion. But here's the secret. Those who master these techniques can lead conversations, influence choices, and create connections without apparent effort. Have you ever imagined getting someone to make the decision you wanted, thinking it was their idea? Or conveying confidence and authority just by adjusting small details in your speech? These strategies are not luck, they are science, and few know how to use them strategically. In this guide, you will discover techniques so effective that, once you learn them, you will never see human behavior the same way again. Have you ever noticed how a warm cup of coffee in your hands can instantly bring a sense of comfort? What many people don't realize is that this same logic applies to human interactions. Studies show that we subconsciously perceive someone as friendlier when they have something warm in their hands, such as coffee or tea. Physical warmth seems to trigger a feeling of emotional warmth, making us more receptive and trusting. If you're heading into an important meeting or a crucial conversation, try offering a warm beverage. Without saying a word, you'll be winning points. But touch also carries subtle and effective power. A light touch on the shoulder or arm during a conversation can create an instant connection and increase the other person's empathy. Of course, everything needs to be done with common sense and respect for personal space. Great negotiators and communicators use this mental trick to establish rapport and break down invisible barriers. If you're heading into a meeting, a longer handshake or a subtle touch on the arm can reinforce a genuine connection and positively influence the perception of you. Now, think about a fancy restaurant. Have you noticed how the atmosphere is a little warm? This is no coincidence. Warm environments make customers feel more welcome and willing to spend more. You can replicate this strategy in your everyday life. A warm and comfortable environment can make people feel more at ease around you. But what about when the dialogue requires something more than physical warmth? Sometimes, an indirect approach is the key to avoiding unnecessary confrontation. Discussing ideas doesn't mean going to war, but that's how people often interpret a simple debate. When someone presents an opinion that's contrary to yours, the worst thing you can do is to directly contradict them. This triggers an automatic defensive instinct, and instead of a productive dialogue, you end up with a clash of egos. Instead, try saying, "I understand what you mean, but have you considered?" This makes the other person feel heard while also giving them space to reflect on your perspective. Imagine you're arguing about productivity with a colleague who advocates working late. Instead of saying, "That doesn't make sense, working too long is counterproductive," try, "I understand that you think you work better at night, but have you considered that regular rest periods can increase your efficiency?" This approach doesn't impose an absolute truth, but it plants a seed of doubt that can grow over time. This is one of the most effective mental tricks for keeping conversations productive and avoiding unnecessary resistance. Furthermore, this technique can be applied to negotiations, relationships, and even parenting. When you allow the other person to see the situation from another angle, without forcing it, the chances of change are much greater. The key is to lead the conversation, not to confront it directly. And if you want to take it to the next level, just add a dash of enthusiasm and energy to the communication. Enthusiasm is contagious. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to stay in a good mood around someone who exudes positive energy? When you greet someone with genuine enthusiasm, their brain responds by releasing dopamine, creating an immediate positive association. This is one of the simplest and most effective mental tricks for gaining instant likability. So instead of a dull, lifeless "hi," try a "hi, great to see you," with a genuine smile. The difference in the mood of the conversation will be clear. This applies to any situation: meetings, sales, presentations, or even casual interactions. If a speaker starts their talk with energy and an engaging tone of voice, the audience will automatically be more engaged. If a salesperson greets a customer with genuine enthusiasm, it creates a more enjoyable experience. Even text messages take on a different impact when imbued with a touch of positive energy. Try sending a "Good morning. Hope you have an amazing day," and see how the responses change. But don't mistake enthusiasm for overdoing it. No one likes artificial enthusiasm that feels like a forced performance. The key is to find a natural balance. Small gestures, like a warm greeting, a cheerful tone of voice, and an attentive look, can make all the difference. And speaking of making an impact on people's choices, there's a trick that can make them make the decision you want, without them even realizing it. Want to guide someone's decision without it seeming manipulative? Present 3 options and put the one you want them to choose last. The human brain has a natural tendency to remember the last piece of information presented best. This mental trick is widely used in marketing, politics, and even in everyday life. For example, if you're selling a service, you might say, "We have the basic package, which covers the essentials, the mid-range package, which has a few extra benefits, and the premium package, which gives you everything you need for the best results." Guess which option most people choose? This effect works because at the end of a sequence, the mind tends to weigh the last option presented the most heavily. Have you ever noticed how restaurant menus structure their suggestions? Typically, the most expensive or profitable dish is placed at the end of the list to make it seem like the best choice. You can use this technique when suggesting ideas in a meeting, helping someone make a decision, or even negotiating a raise. Say, "We can keep the current price, consider a small adjustment, or bring it in line with the market average to reflect my performance." The latter option seems more reasonable and convincing. But this trick only works if the options are presented naturally, without it seeming like you're forcing a specific choice. The key is to guide the conversation subtly, leaving the illusion of autonomy. And speaking of reinforcing desirable behaviors, there's a powerful method for ensuring that people repeat positive actions without realizing they've been influenced. If you want someone to repeat a positive behavior, never let it go unnoticed. Positive reinforcement is one of the most effective mental tricks for shaping attitudes without imposing. When you thank, praise, or recognize good behavior, you trigger a feeling of pleasure in the other person's brain, encouraging them to repeat the action in the future. So instead of just thinking, "He did a good job," say, "What you did here was amazing, your effort really made a difference." This simple gesture can completely change the engagement of a team or a relationship. Successful companies apply this concept all the time. Reward programs, recognition badges, and even small words of encouragement are strategies for keeping employees and customers motivated. In everyday life, a simple, "I liked how you resolved that," can make someone continue to act in the same way. In relationships, thanking people for gestures such as attention and care strengthens the bond. When someone feels that their actions are valued, they naturally tend to repeat them. The key is to be sincere and specific. Generic praise may sound hollow, but targeted recognition has a much bigger impact. Try it today. When someone does something positive, immediately reinforce it. See how motivated they feel to keep going. And if you're struggling with public speaking insecurity, there's a simple strategy that can completely change your confidence. Fear of public speaking is one of the most common, but there's a simple mental trick that can help you overcome it. Carry a bottle of water with you and take small sips during your presentation. Not only does this create natural pauses, avoiding awkward silences, but it also gives you time to gather your thoughts without sounding insecure. Great speakers use this technique to maintain the pace of their speech and avoid rushing, making their speech more fluid and engaging. Another key point is to focus on the message, not the fear. Many people worry so much about their own performance that they forget that the audience is not there to judge, but to absorb what is being said. Instead of thinking, "What if I mess up?" ask yourself, "How can I convey this idea clearly and impactfully?" Changing your mindset can make all the difference. And if you want an extra boost, practice in front of a mirror or record yourself. The more you get used to your speech, the more natural it will sound in the moment. And remember, the audience tends to perceive you the way you perceive yourself. If you act confident, even if it's just an act at first, that confidence will soon become real. Little tricks like controlling your breathing, keeping a steady tone of voice, and making eye contact can completely change the way others perceive you. And when it comes to dealing with interruptions and direct confrontations, there's a subtle but effective tactic for regaining control of the conversation. Have you ever been frustrated when someone tries to overpower you with their loud voice? There's a simple but extremely effective mental trick. Instead of raising your voice in competition, stay calm and continue speaking at the same volume. This creates an uncomfortable psychological effect on your opponent, as their natural tendency is to wait for you to back down or react. When you don't, they eventually realize their own exaggeration and often tone it down or even go silent. This technique is used by experienced communicators, leaders, and negotiators to maintain control of the conversation without creating a direct confrontation. The key is consistency. Instead of playing the interruption game, continue speaking calmly, without giving in to the urge to compete for attention by shouting. The effect is even stronger when combined with firm body language. An upright posture, direct gaze, and controlled gestures show that you are not easily shaken. Imagine you are in a meeting and someone tries to interrupt you repeatedly. Instead of saying, "Let me finish," simply continue speaking, looking at the other people present, ignoring the attempted interruption. The dynamics of the environment will make the audience itself notice the other person's inappropriate behavior and, often, impose silence naturally. And speaking of controlling the environment, there is a set of mental tricks that can completely transform the way you interact with the world around you. Knowing these mental tricks is like having a superpower. You can use them to become more persuasive and strategic, or you can continue to be influenced without realizing it. The choice is yours. But now that you know these techniques, you can no longer ignore them. From a casual conversation to a major negotiation, small adjustments can change everything. Which trick will you try first? The power of arousal? Subtle choice guidance? Or the art of silencing an opponent without raising your voice? If you want to keep learning strategies like these, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This is just the beginning.